But as we said, all eyes today are focused on tomorrow's big union budget 2018, the last budget of the Narendra Modi government. Finance Minister Arun Jailtley set to present that budget with one eye potentially on general elections 2018-19, another eye on reviving growth and the investment cycle. It's our top story tonight.
Arun Jailtley will be wearing two hats on Thursday. The hard-nosed number cruncher in him will have his eyes on the rising fiscal deficit. The Neta in him will have an eye on 2019, the year Narendra Modi's government will be judged by the electorate. Jailtley will be tempted to distribute freebies, but there is limited space for him to do that. What would cheer him is the economic survey that has painted a rosy picture of the economy.
At 7 to 7.5%, जो है, India would once again be the fastest growing major economy in the world.
Next year, India is projected to grow at 7.5%, which would make it the fastest growing economy. Prime Minister Modi recently hammered this point at the Davos World Economic Forum meet, positioning India as the growth engine of the world.
रेड टैप हटाकर हम रेड कारपेट बिछा रहे हैं। अर्थव्यवस्था के लगभग सभी क्षेत्र फॉरेन डायरेक्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट के लिए खुल गए हैं।
It's not foreign investment that is worrying the government, but domestic private investment that is crucial to job creation. Modi rode to power riding a wave of promises, one of which was jobs.
जब इनोवेशन और एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप के जरिए वे जॉब सीकर नहीं, जॉब गिवर बनेंगे, तो उनके लिए, उनके देश के लिए और आपके व्यवसाय के लिए कितने रास्ते खुलेंगे।
The economic survey claims there are 12.7 crore formal jobs in the system. But these claims have been ridiculed as pakoranomics by the opposition, a reference to the Prime Minister's description of street food vendors as job holders. The biggest challenge for Jailtley would be addressing the agrarian crisis. Farmer incomes haven't gone up in years. The government's promise to double farmer income looks like a mirage from where India stands today. Jailtley has reason to be confident. Growth is picking up, but even at 6.75%, growth is at a 4-year low, which is a far cry from his optimism when he presented the 2017 budget.
IMF, even while revising India's GDP forecast from 2016 downwards, has projected a GDP of 7.2 and 7.7% in 2017 and 18 respectively.
The finance minister would know one thing. Mood alone doesn't make for a healthy economy. It is time the Modi government delivered on some, if not all, of its promises. And the burden is on Modi's trusted minister to do that. But with an election year looming, he first has to decide what cap will he be wearing. Will Jailtley spend his way out of trouble, or will politics trump economics? Bureau Report, India Today.
So is Finance Minister Arun Jaitli's budget being driven with one eye on the general elections that could take place anywhere from 6 to 12 months from now? Rajdeep Dubey, is that, you believe, the focus of Budget 2018, the last budget of this government?
Well, the government has been consistently saying it's not going to be populist, but I don't think there are any choices before the finance minister. It will have to look at the agri sector, it will have to look at the job scenario, it will have to look at the social sector, it will have to look at the rural infrastructure sector, it will have to look at power, it will have to look at roads.
So expect a major government spending.
Absolutely, absolutely. It will have to be pushing those areas because no other engine of the economy is firing right now. It will have to be government investment. It will have to be in these areas which will reap some benefits in the next election.
Is there an agreement across the table on this, that the finance minister has no choice, very little elbow room, but to go in for major government spending?
Rajdeep, the BJP as a party, right from 2014-15, has always, presented budgets which are good for the economy and good for the election. This year is going to be no different. And I don't think there's necessarily a contradiction between the two.
No, yes. This is what is required. The point is whether the government is in a position to do it. I think that this economic situation is difficult. I don't think that this government has the kind of fiscal latitude, given the increase in international oil prices, given the fact that, private investment, credit growth, etc. are still in doldrums, and revenue growth is not as per the expectations of the government, the GST being the latest evidence. I think the government does not have the kind of fiscal latitude.
Does the government have the fiscal latitude or not to go in for the kind of election budget which is being talked about? SOPs across the board.
They may not. I do not think they have the fiscal latitude, but I would not be surprised if they manufacture a fiscal latitude.
They manufacture a fiscal latitude.
And whatever resources are at their disposal.
Yes.
What I would say is that all budgets have a political element. Part A of the speech is political. I'll do this, I'll do that for all the sections. Part B is where the revenues and the expenditures are, and that's where the problem will be. So all good economics must be backed by all good politics, but it can happen that you may have good politics but not necessarily good economics, and the perceptions that you create are from part A of the speech rather than the part B of the speech. So therefore expenditures and revenue will be a problem, as other panelists have.
Can Mir Sharma, the finance minister, in a 2018 budget ahead of an election year, afford a budget where he is seen in a way to focus on fiscal consolidation rather than on major government spending to kickstart the investment cycle? If private investment will not kickstart, the government is going to have to invest.
But Rajdeep, that is what they have been trying year after year. After every budget they have presented, the headline in the papers has been, public investment vastly increased, private sector to follow. All right, but the private sector has not followed. So what is the point of increasing spending?
Do you see that investment cycle kick-starting? The fact is,
they have been trying it for years and it hasn't worked.
You don't see job-led growth being created as a result of this budget, with MSMEs struggling with the general sense that the government needs to do much more to kickstart this investment cycle.
It has to come from reform, it has to come from structural change, it cannot come from more spending.
And it can't necessarily come from a budget then.
But it cannot come from the budget. They have neither the money nor has that process been shown to be effective.
Yes,
they need reform.
Whatever fiscal latitude the finance minister has is going to be utilized to the maximum extent to upscale public investment, particularly in urban infrastructure. Low-cost housing has not been mentioned so far. Low-cost housing is very likely to get some more incentives. But if that's not the only one, it's highly likely that, we will get some extra expenditure in rural development, meaning Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, rural roads, and hopefully health and education
as
well.
But as Mir Sharma has pointed out, you've attempted this in the past. It hasn't kick-started the growth cycle. So what is going to be different in 2018?
It's a question of perspectives. You have other data which tells you 7 million jobs were created in the organized sector in the last year. In the last 2 years, is this what is it? It is 18 to 22 people joining the job market.
You're going by the EPFO figures.
EPFO figures. No, this. How can it be jugglery? Each of these 7 million. No, this is I think people
one by one,
people who want to spread gloom, they don't want to. They have blinkers on their eyes. They don't want to see the reality. Number one. Number two. Can I? I'm stating facts. You're indulging in propaganda.
No.
I'm saying 7 million EPFO jobs. 7 million. It's not a projection. These are actual accounts.
Investment.
EPFO
1 minute, sir. 1 minute.
New accounts.
1 minute. Investment rate is down from 30.
How can you ignore the reality?
Yes, the reality is that investment rates are down from 35.6% in FY07 to 26.4% in FY2017.
No, even in
the lowest fall, the steepest fall in 60 years.
No, but why do you want to look at 7 million jobs at the same time you've been able to create 7 million jobs in the organized sector? In the organized sector, no, these are EPFO records. This is evidence-based. Some of you are researchers. Do you believe evidence or do you believe propaganda?
Have you seen the ILO, latest ILO report?
What? ILO, what is it based on? What is it based on? What is it based on? I know it. You don't have to teach me. What is it based on? Here,
what is ILO based on?
EPFO, do you understand EPFO accounts?
Can we just
EPFO accounts? 7 million new entrants in the 18 to 22 age group.
Some element without shouting.
So stop indulging in propaganda.
Okay, you are indulging, you believe Prasanjit Bose is indulging in propaganda. Gaurav Gogoi, the Congress is also making much of what they are calling pakoda economics of the Prime Minister, saying, the Prime Minister is saying, if you don't have a job, set up a pakoda shop. Now, you've lampooned that. Here is GVL Narasimha Rao saying, look, 7 million jobs based on EPFO have been set up. Either way, looking ahead to the budget tomorrow, do you believe that the Finance Minister has to deliver on those critical issues of job-led growth? Is that what the Congress party believes should be the focus of this budget? When you've had your last budgets also before re-election, you've had massive loan waivers in the past for farmers. So it's not as if you haven't done what are seen as election-oriented populist budgets. This Prime Minister saying, I will not have a populist budget. Do you want him to go populist or not?
See, we want BJP. We want the BJP government to show good economics and good public finance skills. Unfortunately, given its history of demonetization, poor implementation of GST and a flat agricultural growth, it has shown neither the track record for good economics or public finance. So going forward, I don't expect the budget to revive the economic growth of BJP or the political fortune. They will come back to what they're known for, which is the politics of fear and hate, and that is their election strategy, not public finance and definitely not a good budget.
Can I ask you across the table, because our viewers will be interested, do you believe the Finance Minister must therefore look at imaginatively adding some taxes somewhere, long-term capital gains tax possibly?
I believe there will be cesses.
You believe there will be new cesses?
There will be new cesses, there will be more taxing of the sin economy and of luxury goods.
How does the Finance Minister raise the revenues to meet all these various expenditure targets? Yes.
I think it will come from a very ambitious divestment program.
Yes.
What Sanjeev was mentioning was cashing government assets. The only point is that doesn't deliver results that quickly. It's not that easy. I don't think, for instance, they'll be able to do the Air India privatization within the year.
No, so therefore, in the past, again, again, the government in the past has also announced ambition divestment programs. It hasn't kick-started investment. Isn't the real challenge for this government in this budget to kick-start investment so that people actually get a sense?
To build the confidence of Indian investors in the future of India.
You believe that's the biggest challenge before the government? Okay, right across the table. Right across the table, the one big challenge for the Finance Minister in this budget, Professor Arun Kumar.
No, last 3-4 months, investment has started really looking up. Things have, it has started improving. Please check your numbers.
December manufacturing.
Let me say why domestic investors may have lacked confidence where FDI investment, we have the highest inflows. Because there is a cultural change. You have been used to a particular way of doing business in Congress regimes. This Prime Minister wants integrity from corporate India, and that may have caused some concerns within the corporate sector.
Okay, let me ask you the biggest challenge, starting with you, Professor Arun Kumar.
So, to kickstart, you need to raise investment. FDI is not the only solution because FDI is only 10% of the total investment. That by itself, even if it goes up by a few percentage points, is not going to kickstart. What you need to do is increase expenditures. For that, you can cut the tax expenditures, the various kinds of concessions that are given on various taxes. You can cut that without really changing the tax structure. Cesses would require GST changes, and that would be difficult because the government has been claiming that under GST we've removed most of the cesses. Now to introduce cesses under GST, that would prove to be difficult.
Mir Sharma, the biggest challenge.
Reviving private investment, reviving investor confidence. Contrary to what Mr. Rao has said, actually according to the CMIE, the December quarter of 2018 had the lowest number of new project announcements in 13 years.
They have halved
13 years.
They have halved since 2014.
All right, so this is
I'll let him respond. Give him the last word. Yes.
This is a crisis of confidence that has nothing to do with integrity. It is a crisis of confidence in policy consistency.
So what should he be doing? What do you believe the Finance Minister should be doing to restore that confidence?
He needs to reassure investors that he believes in fiscal credibility, that he is not going to flood the market with government borrowing, and that he is going to create a policy environment that sustains and protects investment.
Professor Malhotra,
and that hasn't happened yet.
The biggest challenge for the Finance Minister tomorrow?
The biggest challenge ought to be at this point creating more jobs. And unfortunately, the government is not willing to recognize that the 7 million new jobs that were just mentioned are merely formalization of informal jobs. Yes. They are not new jobs. I think this has been fairly well established.
So he needs to incentivize that informal sector which has taken a big hit post demonetization and GST.
Cluster development, urban infrastructure, low-cost housing, health, education. I said package for wood and furniture, package for food processing. That's what I'm hoping would happen.
Prasanji, the biggest challenge?
I think that the government should first of all come out of the denial mode. I think the government has refused the crisis of confidence of private investment in our country is something which the government, the ruling party, they're not even willing to acknowledge.
So you're saying first come out of
denial.
So the finance minister, right at the top of his budget tomorrow, should admit in some way that we are at the crossroads.
Yes,
this is not a feedback.
Without solving the bad loans problem, you will not be able to resolve the problem of this crisis of confidence.
Of course, the bad loan problem can't be solved by a union budget. It's a deeper problem that goes beyond just one budget statement.
Yeah,
what's the big challenge tomorrow?
Clearly, the finance minister's biggest challenge is looking after the fisc.
Yes.
And for that, the near-term solution that he should seriously explore is to double the non-tax revenue that that accrues to the government, and doubling the disinvestment target. The markets are at a high. When markets are high, disinvestment goes well. That's what's happened in the past. I'm not talking of privatization. I'm just talking of sale of government shares. And they can go ahead with that and double their non-tax revenue.
The biggest challenge comes tomorrow.
The biggest challenge that comes tomorrow is how is he going to please the corporate boardrooms and yet create a budget which is politically attractive.
That's the challenge for any finance minister in a way.
This finance minister faces a bigger challenge because the need for incentivizing the private sector is very urgent, but it is not something which wins political kudos.
But I've heard the likes of Mr. Ahluwalia, Professor Ahluwalia, saying that long-term capital gains tax should be reintroduced. At the moment you do that, that's hardly an incentive to the private.
Incidentally, I'm not sure that will make such a huge difference. There are ways in which you can handle that, which makes it.
So how would you incentivize the private investor today? The crisis of confidence from which he suffers from?
My guess is that he will do something on the corporate tax.
He will do. You believe he will lower? You believe he could lower corporate tax?
I don't, because he made this promise.
The other way for private sector investment is what economic nationalism and protectionism you could do with. He raised the import duties like they have done in the case of steel, like they've done in the case of consumer durables.
After his Davos speech, that will be hypocrisy.
No, but he's done it. He's done it in the past, and it's not been very far back.
He's known for hypocrisy.
Hold on. GVL Narasimha Rao has left us, so it would be unfair in a way to target the BJP specifically in his absence. But yes, I'll give you a word.
Apart from the incentives for investment, what you also need is capacity utilization is very low, so you need to raise demand. Where would you raise demand? In the unorganized sector where demand has been very low. Unless you raise demand, incentives will not work. So you need to raise demand first. Second is, how would you increase expenditures to raise the demand? You need to cut tax expenditures, plus, as he's saying, you increase, the non-tax revenue that you can generate. But there's another very big challenge, that is of the stock market. Stock markets at record high, and they can collapse, especially because, what's happened in America, the corporate tax rate has been cut from 35% to 21%. If capital begins to flow out, stock markets can collapse very quickly, and that's another challenge. So you have an internal instability and an external instability. Both have to be dealt with.
The other worry, of course, is that we are in a era of chronic political instability in terms of within parliament. There is almost a gridlock between the government and the opposition. Will the opposition give any breathing space to this finance minister come tomorrow?
The opposition has always been pointing out the problems to the government. And one of the first problems we've been pointing out is the agrarian crisis. Look at agricultural growth. It stagnated at 1.7%, when it used to be 5% in 2013-14. Agricultural incomes have just stagnated. So today, this government needs to diversify agriculture, focus on livestock, focus on the, the
if
bringing
there is
back
a massive
confidence.
agriculture package tomorrow, will you support it in the budget?
Absolutely. We will always be demanding for an agricultural package. Look at livestock, look at food processing, look at into other forms of cash crops. This is what we need. So while we need jobs, most of the jobs are in the agri and allied sector, and that's where the government needs to focus on.
Rajiv, let me ask you in conclusion. I think taking off from what Dr. Desai said, one of the challenges is to make everyone happy. In an election year, you cannot afford to allow any sector to feel coming out of the budget that the finance minister has done us in. How does he balance these conflicting interests? I want the middle class wants lower oil prices. The corporates want corporate tax to be reduced. Agriculturists want a major package for agriculture. Private investment wants incentives. So how do you actually do that?
I think, like I started with saying, that his choices are very limited. He's hemmed in, and he has to choose between what he can do and what he expects the other sectors like private sector investment to do, which is not going to happen right now. Exports is not happening to the extent. So he will have to make his choices, and I think his choices are very limited. He will have to focus on making sure that there is some kind of job growth, but that starts with the acknowledgement that there is a job crisis. So unless there is additional greenfield investment, job growth is not going to happen. So it has to be government investment going into the infrastructure sector, into rural and semi-urban areas, into areas like education and health. Only those will get some kind of job growth.
But as we've said, in his previous budgets, he's also attempted that, but it hasn't quite worked. The question is whether in 2018 there is some magic bullet that the finance minister can give. Remember, all our panelists will join us on our budget special. It starts 8 a.m. tomorrow. We look ahead to the finance minister's speech, his last speech of this government of Narendra Modi. So let's then turn to my take ahead of Arun Jaitly's big budget. Arun Jaitly's fifth budget is arguably going to be his most challenging. Against the backdrop of demonetization, the goods and services tax, rising oil prices and a stressed banking sector, Jaitly needs to boost investor confidence and kickstart growth. But he also needs to ensure that no section of the electorate feels left out in the lead up to the general elections. Expect then a massive increase in government spending, especially in urban infrastructure and agriculture. But rising oil prices and unsettled GST revenues are an expenditure constraint, as the finance minister has one eye on the elections and the other on fiscal consolidation. Walking the tightrope is never easy, and Mr. Jaitly may well choose to play safe by not making any dramatic announcements, which is also perhaps the best way forward. A little less hype, more sustained reform on the ground is the only way to make the budget exercise less of a political document and a more productive, genuine attempt to get the economy back on track. Welcome back to News Today. Let's turn to the other big story of the day. The prime accused in the murder of Chandan Gupta in Kasganj in Uttar Pradesh was finally arrested today. Salim and his two brothers Naseem and Wasim are accused of killing the 22-year-old college student Chandan. The UP government has submitted a report now on the violence to the Home Ministry. But more videos are now emerging which suggest that the face-off in Kasganj was a much more complicated story than some might have tried to project. Here's a ground report.
Chandan Gupta leading a Tiranga motorcycle rally as chants of Vande Mataram and Bharat Mata Ki Jai rent the air. These are the last moments of the young boy before he was shot dead on Republic Day. But what happened before that? A series of videos have now emerged that seem to help piece together the sequence of events. A group of young men, including Chandan, assembled and celebrated Republic Day. It concluded with the singing of the national anthem. Soon after, the young men got onto motorcycles at the Baradwari locality to carry out their Tiranga Yatra. Around 50 to 60 of them proceeded, raising slogans. Carrying the tricolour, the men rode through town, Chandan among those leading the procession. The trouble started when the motorcycle procession reached Badunagar, a locality that has a large population of Muslims. The community there had organized its own flag hoisting. An argument broke out between the two sides, reportedly over who would get right of way.
50-60 मेरे अंदाज में 50 और 60 में ऐसी मोटरसाइकिलों पे इधर से नारे लगाते हुए आए वंदे मातरम कहना होगा नहीं पाकिस्तान जाना होगा ऐसी कोई नारे लगा रहे
फिर बात बिगड़ी कैसे
बिगड़ी क्या वो माने नहीं वो लोग कुर्सियां यहाँ बिछी हुई तो वो हटा के इधर उधर तोड़ताड़ करी
ध्वजारोहण के बाद अपना उनका स्पीच वगैरह का कार्यक्रम चल रहा था वहाँ पर इनमें आपस में वाद विवाद हुआ फिर ये लोग तैयार होकर के वहाँ से और बदला लेने की भावना से निकले ये कह करके कि वहाँ तो इन्होंने हमको आगे जाने से रोक दिया यहाँ देखता हूँ कैसे रोक देंगे
A massive raid was conducted in the area where the first round of violence took place between the Tiranga Yatra and the other community. But in the meanwhile, video footage has also surfaced where Chandan Gupta is being seen carrying Tiranga Yatra, leading Tiranga Yatra, and another video which has surfaced that also shows how few people, group of these men carrying baton, several other stuff, going exactly at the place where the violence took place that led to the killing of Chandan Gupta, where the shootout took place.
And now, making matters more complex is this video of men patrolling the streets at Sootwali Mandi, raising slogans, pelting stones, one even allegedly carrying a firearm. A week later, these videos raised fresh questions. Did the clash see violence from both sides? Who are these men, pelting stones and carrying firearms in a Muslim-populated area, and on whose incitement did the violence start? Even as one of Chandan's murderers is under arrest, the answers to these questions will be critical to peace in Kasganj. With Ashutosh, in Kasganj, Bureau Report, India Today.
To another simmering controversy with possibly far more dangerous ramifications, the death toll in the Shopia firing in the Kashmir Valley has now touched 3. The army unit against which an FIR was filed by the Jammu and Kashmir police today retaliated by filing a counter FIR in the case. Defending the move, the army claims that it fired on a mob of stone pelters in self-defense.
Is stone pelting justified or army action when Jawans are provoked to the extreme to protect their own lives and government property? That's the big question as the valley remains on the boil. Shopia echoed with slogans against the army and locals raised pro-terror posters after another young Kashmiri succumbed to injuries sustained during the Shopia firing on Saturday. The army has now filed a counter FIR in the case, claiming that the firing wasn't self-defense.
We have done our own inquiry and we are very clear that we have responded when we were provoked to the ultimate. And it is in self-defense and protection of the property of the government that has been invested on us. And I don't find anything to really fear.
Aiming to use this opportunity to derail democracy in Jammu and Kashmir, Pakistan's proxy, Hurriyat, spewed venom once again. The united Hurriyat leadership has called for a Shopia Chalo march on Friday.
हिंदुस्तान ये समझता है कि कत्ल गारत करने से, यहाँ की मासूम लड़कियों को कत्ल करने से, नौजवानों को कत्ल करने से ये तहरीक हम खत्म कर सकते हैं, तो दुनिया में कोई भी तहरीक आज तक कामयाब नहीं हुई होती। कि जुमे के दिन सईद अली शाह गिलानी साहब, मीरवाइज कश्मीर मौलाना उमर फारूक साहब और मैं शुपियान की जामिया मस्जिद में जुमा की नमाज अदा करेंगे।
There is anger against the FIR filed against the army major. Protesters argue that the FIR will affect army's morale. Shopian deaths have now become fresh ammunition to fuel separatist politics in Jammu and Kashmir.
प्रधानमंत्री को आज चिट्ठी लिख रहा हूं कि वो इसको स्पष्ट कर दें, वरना मैं पार्लियामेंट में उठाना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि ये तो हम बर्दाश्त नहीं कर सकते कि हमारी सेना लोग मरे और फिर उनको वही लोग जिनको बचाया है और जो प्रेरणा देते हैं आतंकवादियों को, उनको अधिकार दें कि तुम हमारे जवान पर केस चलाएं, हमारे ऑफिसर्स पर केस चलाएं। ये तो हो ही नहीं सकता।
कश्मीर की आज मौजूदा हालत के लिए ये दोनों पार्टियां जिम्मेदार हैं, लेकिन मैं उसमें भारतीय जनता पार्टी की मरकजी सरकार, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट का ज़्यादा कसूर समझता हूँ, जिन्होंने अमन कायम करने में एक तरह से नाकामी बिल्कुल अपनी शो कर दी है।
Both the civilian government as well as the army seem to be continuing to stand on different sides in this particular matter. Meanwhile, the Hurriyat Conference and other separatist parties have now called for a Shopian Chalo on Friday. This, to a lot of experts, could be detrimental to fragile peace in the valley. Shujaul Haq, Insenagar for India Today.
Okay, let's turn to today's political face-off, and it comes from the state of Meghalaya that goes to the polls next month. Rahul Gandhi is campaigning there and today found himself on the wrong side of his original suit boot ki sarkar jibe against the Narendra Modi government. Today it was the BJP who accused the Congress president of wearing a Burberry jacket worth nearly 70,000 rupees. The Congress claims the jacket was a gift. The politics of suit boot versus Burberry.
Rahul Gandhi rocking it at a concert in Shillong, Meghalaya, dressed casually in a jacket and jeans. But it is this jacket that has now triggered a political earthquake. The jacket made by British luxury house Burberry has the BJP all riled up. The BJP Meghalaya unit was quick to target the Congress president for wearing a designer jacket that allegedly costs 70,000 rupees. As the tweet went viral, top BJP leadership in Delhi had its claws out for Rahul, hurling the suit boot jibe that Rahul and the Congress used to attack the Prime Minister with.
वो क्या टारगेट करते थे, लेकिन हम तो उनको टारगेट नहीं करेंगे, चाहे वो जैकेट क्या रखते हैं, पहनते हैं और क्या पैकेट यूज करते हैं, हमें उससे कोई मतलब नहीं है.
And I've said openly that they are looking like waiters in a restaurant with this suit boot. We sure there's no need when we have got well-defined dress, very appropriate for our weather. Why we should, imitate those who ruled this country and looted this country?
A cornered Congress came out with some bizarre reasons justifying Rahul Gandhi's designer jacket. While some said that Rahul Gandhi's jacket was borrowed, others claimed that the jacket the Gandhi scion wore was a knockoff.
I can show you the same jacket for 700 rupees. If the Prime Minister wants it, I'll make one and send it. Please tell him, other than 56-inch chhati, I don't have his measurements. But this is too funny. This is coming from the suit boot sarkar.
This, however, isn't the first time that row over a politician's clothes has ignited. When PM Modi welcomed Barack Obama wearing a monogrammed suit, he too came under attack. Now the Congress says that the BJP is using Rahul's jacket to deflect attention from real issues.
भाई अमित शाह से क्यों नहीं पूछते आप? वो गुच्ची की शॉलें ओढ़ते हैं और
बहुत सारी जैकटें होती हैं और मोदी साहब का तो कुछ कहना ही नहीं है।
बर्बरी की बजाय मैं कहूँगा शेर बब्बर वहाँ पहुँचा है, उससे घबराई हुई है भारतीय जनता पार्टी जी। और इसलिए वो इस तरह की हरकतें कर रही है। मैं ये समझता हूँ कि मेघालय में उनका जाना बीजेपी को हजम नहीं हो रहा है।
As the fresh political season opens, a full-blown political jung over a jacket takes center stage. Bureau Report, India Today.
Let's now turn to Karnataka, another state which is poll-bound. Ahead of the elections, an all-out ugly video war has broken out between the ruling Congress and the BJP. In a fresh attack, the BJP today released a video to attack the Karnataka Congress. It appears that Twitter video wars are the latest political weapon. Take a look.
Ugly video wars rage on in poll-bound Karnataka. As the aggressive and massive social media battle between the two parties continue, just 3 months before the elections, the BJP has taken yet another pot shot at the Siddaramaiah government. This time, mocking Congress, KBC style. BJP has released a Twitter video to attack the Karnataka Congress. The video is titled Karnataka Lutya Dipati and goes on to expose rampant corruption in the Siddaramaiah government in a famous Kaun Banega Crorepati quiz show-like format. The video further exposes Karnataka Excise Minister H.Y. Meti, who was accused of raping a woman, and even attacks other Karnataka ministers' credentials over looting the state. As Karnataka polls draw near, looks like there's only rhetoric and no development. With Nagarjun Dwarkanath in Bengaluru, Bureau Report, India Today.
Welcome back. You are with the news today. Let's turn to our good news story, and it is an inspirational story of a 34-year-old techie from Kolkata, suffers from chronic asthma, but that hasn't stopped him from performing a unique feat, climbing the 7 tallest peaks across continents. Take a look.
He came, he saw, and he conquered.
Top of Indonesia, the top of Oceania and Australia. It is one of the 7 summits, and I am really feeling so proud.
This is the story of Satyaroop Siddhant, the mountaineer who has climbed the 7 highest peaks across 7 continents.
And chase your dreams. Nothing is impossible. You have a choice. So in 2012, I went for Mount Kilimanjaro. So it was a volcanic peak, and it had 6 ecological zone while crossing, and it had rainforest to cold desert to snowy glacier at the top.
The journey hasn't been an easy one. Satyapal has achieved this while he suffers from acute asthma.
Tomorrow's weather is bad as well, so we'll give it a try. It was never a childhood dream because I was an asthmatic kid till my college days, so it was an impossible dream.
Mountaineering is a passion fraught with risks. Satyaroop recounts how he came face to face with death on the Everest.
On the top of Everest at 8,800 meters, when I was crossing the ridge, my left eye went blind, temporary blindness, and immediately after that my oxygen mask got blocked and I couldn't breathe the supplemental oxygen, and I was without supplemental oxygen for 30 minutes.
And Satyaroop isn't done yet. He now aims to climb the volcanic peaks in the world. With Manugya Loiwal in Kolkata, Bureau Report, India Today.
Okay, just about time to wrap up. Remember, we'll be back 8 a.m. tomorrow morning with all the very latest on the build-up to Budget 2018. But I want to leave you with a wonderful image today. A blue moon, a super moon, and a total lunar eclipse, all in one night. Sky gazers were in for a rare treat today when 3 celestial events combined to create a super blue blood moon. Take a look. Good night. Goodbye.
Thanks for watching the video. For more such news and updates, please like, share and subscribe to India Today. Also check out our other great videos from our channel. We know you would love to.